we're going to go ahead and get started here. I think this is the first time I've ever used the gavel, so that was pretty exciting. Welcome, everyone. Time is now 7:01. I'm going to call this Planning Commission meeting on July 8th, 2024 to order. Secretary Cox, will you please take attendance?
Chairman Schenkel.
Present.
Member DeBolt. Here. Member Bishop.
Present.
Chad Kissinger.
Here.
Member Bailey. Here. And Member Cox here.
Great. Next item on our agenda for this evening is the approval of the agenda. I am going to make a quick amendment under our Planning Commission items, which is 6. I'm going to add 6C, which is nomination and voting of officers for this body as well. So Secretary Cox, make that adjustment, and with that amendment, I will call for approval of tonight's agenda.
So amended.
Thank you, Member Kissinger. Do we have support for that motion?
Support, Bailey.
Support from Bailey. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. At this time, we're going to open it up for citizen comments. If anyone present would like to make any comments, you're welcome to step right up to the microphone. You must state your full name, home address, and time is limited to 4 minutes. So I'll give us about 10 or 15 seconds to see any motion move. All right.
Good evening. My name is Angelique Campfield. I reside at 821 Berkshire Drive in Kalamazoo. So I'm not of the Vicksburg community. However, I am running for Ninth Circuit Court Judge. It is a new seat this year. There are 3 candidates. I wanted to give you my background because according to our Chief Judge, Gary Jagir, it is going to be a 100% criminal docket, meaning that only felony cases will be heard by the new judge. My experience is exactly aligned with that assignment. I have been practicing for 27 years as an attorney. I have done 15 years as a prosecutor in Kalamazoo County, Allegan County, and Calhoun counties. In those particular areas, I was also in Allegan County, the vice president and the president of the Allegan County Bar Association, where I began a free legal clinic for that community that is still continuing today. When I did the prosecution in Calhoun County, I was one of the individuals, along with Judge Tomac, who started a domestic violence intervention court. Of the 38 graduates that successfully completed that program in the first year, nobody reoffended. So that began to change the dynamic of the families in that particular area. I'd like to bring a domestic violence treatment court to Kalamazoo County as well. I think that if we stop the violence in our families and they see healthy relationships modeled at home and coping mechanisms, they'll be able to take that out into the community so that we have less people that are violent with coworkers, bosses, or just other people out in the community. And if we can reduce that violence, it's better for everybody in Kalamazoo County. Additionally, I'd like to start a mental health community-wide coalition to increase the number of service providers that we have for those who need mental health services. That would include victims of crime, but it would also include those individuals that are being sentenced to treatment courts, as well as our veterans, and then perhaps some of our homeless community that we see that there have been a lot of complaints countywide about the homeless and that they're not getting the proper services they need to get them housing, employment, and medical and mental health care if they need it. I would like to be a judge for those reasons. I think of the 3 candidates, I have the most experience. I know Ms. Willis has only been practicing for about 7 years in business law, and Ms. Morse has been our state representative and done a fantastic job at that. However, she hasn't practiced in about 20 years, and she was only relicensed in 2022 in the state of Michigan. So as far as the consistency in practice, I think I bring that to the community. I could be fair and impartial because in addition to prosecuting, I also did community-wide defense work on our county contract before we had our public defender's office for approximately 9 years. So as far as a criminal judge goes, we need to look at a multitude of factors when we're sentencing individuals either to treatment court, incarceration, or probation. And those things I think I have a really good handle on, having done both sides of prosecution and defense work. Additionally, I have the expertise to know what attorneys need to do to qualify expert witnesses in my courtroom if I'm so lucky as to be elected. And I can fashion and move those cases along quickly in my courtroom and efficiently, which I think is what our community needs. The need for an additional judge came from our backup of case trials from COVID that we are still working on. And of course, with the rise in violence in the community, that has increased as well. So I just ask that you look at my website. It's votecamfield.com. The primary is August 6th, and the general election is November 5th, and I would ask for your support and appreciate your time this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further citizen comments? We'll move on to approval of minutes from the June 10th, 2024 meeting. Assuming that you've had time to review those minutes, I'll call for a motion to approve those minutes.
Member DeBalt, I move we approve the minutes from the meeting of June 10th.
We have a motion from Member DeBalt. Do we have support for that motion?
This is Bishop, I support.
Support from Bishop. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Thank you. We are on to our Planning Commission items. First on our list is site plan review for the Berg Car Wash, 320 East Vine Street.
Yes, I appreciate everyone being here tonight, and quickly going to turn this over to Kyle from McKenna. Kyle Mucha. As everyone's aware, the last few weeks and I apologize ahead of time, I'm fighting some allergies tonight. So, but the last probably have had 3 kind of summary updates as we have progressed along in behind the scenes with Ryan Collins from Frederick Construction, as well as civil engineers, and it's Zach. Well, shout out to Zach, who sends me all the updated emails, but Dan will probably comment on that as well. But has been working with staff, both our engineers at Prine Newhoff, as well as McKenna. And we will be given a staff recommendation after Kyle speaks, and I speak on behalf of the memo reference we received from Prine Newhoff in support. But even this morning, Zach sent an email updating us kind of a further explanation on the parking, angled parking situation, which when I speak to the engineer's memo, I'll address that more. So certainly have appreciated, Ryan, your leadership from Fredericks and your team, the communication, and look forward to giving the staff recommendation tonight on a certainly desired asset of the village. So with that, Kyle Mucha from McKenna and Associates.
Thank you, Mr. Mallory. So as Mr. Mallory has indicated, we've alluded to this project for some months over time. The project site is 320 East Vine Street. It is a new parcel address. Previously, it did have a parcel number, but there was no address assigned to it. It has been a vacant lot for some time. Vacant meaning there's no buildings, structures, anything on it. It's just a grass field. In that regard, the applicant, Mr. Patrick Pearson, is proposing to establish a 2,285 square foot car wash facility and vacuum stations on here. The site is located in our C2 district. Car wash operations do require special land use approval, and it's our understanding that a couple months ago the Village Council did grant the special land use approval on that. So now the applicant seeks site plan review and approval. Moving through with their site plan in this regard, on page 2 of our memo, we've discussed and looked at the Provisions for setbacks. The proposed location does meet the setbacks as stipulated within the village ordinance. As Mr. Mallory has alluded to with some off-street parking, we understand that this is a self-service, style auto wash for vehicles. Most of the parking spaces will be in conjunction with the vacuum service area. We did have a few clarifying comments that we have provided to the engineering team, and it is our understanding that they're in the works to rectify. Screening is required along the eastern property line as well due to the adjacent lot being residential. The applicant has provided some conceptual designs for us regarding the screening. We have provided comments back asking just for further clarity on the type of screening. However, we are confident that that can be worked out internally with administrative review to ensure that adequate screening between the commercial use and the residential adjacent is properly buffered. Stormwater management is being handled review-wise by Prine and Newhoff as well. Site access and circulation is being proposed in site with the, to our understanding, primary access off of Vine with out only on Richardson, but I will defer to the engineering comments on that. We did have a few clarifying comments that we provided to the engineering team just to help rectify some, wouldn't say concerns, Mr. Schenkel, but just additional comments that we would like addressed. Overall, though, we do find that this plan, from a planning and zoning standpoint, can be supported. We are just asking for a few clarifying addendums, which can be reviewed administratively. So, I'm happy to take any questions on that, if there's any on that regard from the Planning Commission.
Any questions from the Planning Commission members for Mr. Mucha? Kyle, I have one question. I'm just making sure that I'm clear on the parking. So I'm getting a little confused. The parking, is there 4 stalls in addition to the parking for the vacuums?
So our understanding, so the current ordinance does not have parking standards for auto washes.
Right.
So what is being proposed on the site plan is for the vacuum stations with one service bay or one area as well for maintenance. And I'll defer to Mr. Dan on that one. So what is shown within their plans is for the vacuum bays itself. They're a pull-up infrastructure style, is what we understand.
So those are the only parking spots on this site then?
With
for the
one
vacuum?
additional near the service entrance for the mechanic equipment
Got it.
itself.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Yes, sir.
We did have Mike Schwartz with Prine Newhoff work, like I said, with the general contractor, Frederick's Construction, and their engineers on the project. The storm pipe and retention calculations are satisfactory, both for a 10-year event and a 100-year event on the retention. We would have a stormwater agreement for the stormwater system. The developer's going to prepare that and record the necessary documentation. All the grading on site is adequate and meets the expectations. There was a clarification on angled parking that was clarified to finalize. It was worked on last week, but the angled parking is sized to fit a vehicle within the space without hanging over the sidewalk or into the lane. And I've handed out a hard copy of that is reflective of a Chevy Suburban vehicle in that parking spot. And the vehicle will have no problem fitting in that spot. And then the Planning Commission should know we will engage Baker Tilly to calculate a hookup fee to the water and sewer system, but that will come after a site plan approval. But I can answer any questions. Reference the memo that Mr. Schwartz provided and was provided within the packet.
Any further questions for staff or for Mr. Mucha regarding this site plan review in front of us?
Our recommendation will be for a motion, support, and roll call vote to tentatively approve the site plan with the listed 6 conditions in the McKenna memo that's provided. With that site plan approval, the clerk would record that staff will ensure that those bullet points are met and before any type of permits are issued. But we feel that with the working relationship that's been established over the 6 months, the comments and conversations that have taken place reference McKenna's suggestions, that those will all be met by the developer, and we're looking forward to having a car wash come to Vicksburg.
All right, I will call for a motion on the site plan review regarding the Berg Car Wash at 320 East Vine Street. We have to take a motion.
This is Member Bishop. I would make a motion to approve the site plan with the stipulations as per the memo per Schwartz.
We have a motion on the table from Member Bishop. Do we have support for that motion?
Member DeBolt, I support it.
Support from DeBolt. Any further discussion before we take a roll call
If we
vote?
can just have a clarification on the motion, it would be in support with the conditions listed in the McKenna document by Mr. Mucha.
Member Bishop, I would like to make a motion to support the site plan as per the memo per McKenna Group and Kyle Mucha.
Do you support that motion?
I support that motion.
All right. Any further discussion before we vote on that? All right. Member Cox, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Chairman Schenkel,
Yes.
Member Bishop,
Yes.
Member DeBalt,
Yes.
Member Kissinger,
Yes.
Member Bailey,
Yes.
and Member Cox is a yes.
All right. We have the owners here. Would you like to say any words? Yeah. Ryan?
I'd just like to thank all of you folks.
Just have to say
Ryan
your name.
Collins, Frederick Construction. I'd like to thank all you folks for talking about this for the past 3 months, listening to updates, et cetera. It's a big deal for us and for Pat and his wife. And Kyle, thank you for jumping all over it and getting through the review, as well as Mike Schwartz, even though he's not here. Jim, thanks for all your help. So it really takes a group effort to get through this. Dan, Zach's been phenomenal, answered all questions, emails, et cetera. So just want to let you know we appreciate everybody in this room.
Great. Thank you. All right. Next item on our list for this evening is the update on addresses for corrective zoning. Mr. Mucha.
Yes, what we've tasked McKenna with, and this goes back maybe over the last 4 to 6 months, is continuing to identify properties located in the village of Vicksburg that need update in zoning, maybe historically have not been in the correct zone. So we've asked him to identify those properties. There will be a public notice, but kind of this is a summary of what is to come at future planning commission meetings to clean up some of these areas in the village. And with that, Kyle, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mallory. So this came about in the past recent few months. Mr. Mallory and I have been working together on various topics throughout, like the zoning ordinance, rezonings of properties to clarify some issues on our zoning map, and then taking a proactive look at this to rectify some uses that in Franklin's need to be rectified in that regard. I don't know, Christian, are you able to pull up the Excel sheet by chance, if you have the copy of that? If not, or the other PDF, I'll take that as well. Thank you. So within this, we've identified over a dozen properties throughout the village in our first go-through that were presented to village staff asking for input, and then wanted to present to the Planning Commission as discussion only tonight of what we're seeing in regards to needing to be modified. So we've gone through, listed the addresses, parcel numbers, what the existing use is on these parcels, what our new master plan calls for these to be, and then also compare that to the existing zoning, and then what we're proposing to modify or change the zoning designation to. Some of these will help clear up uses that are commercial but are currently zoned residential, so they're considered illegal non-conforming. Others, towards the bottom of our report there, properties that are split zoned, have portions of them along the pond on Sunset Lake there that are also zoned, what is it? Conservation. It's the rear like 30 to 40 feet of the property that sets additional stipulations on what can and cannot be done in that parcel. So we've gone through, recommended in our initial analysis to remove that split zoning from that and just do a straight across residential district. That doesn't take any property rights away from them. It still will maintain the existing overall zoning. It just helps clarify and clean up our map. Mr. Wines, is the PDF available for kind of graphical presentations as well? Thank you.
Kyle, can I ask a quick
Yes.
question? Is conservation a zone that we still have?
We do.
Okay. What
It's,
typically falls under that? Is that
I'd have to, I don't have it in front of me, Matt.
just, what's the 5
It's the, on our zoning map, it's the green. It's a little bit of green. They're few and far between. The significant density we found is around the pond area. To help, the intent may have been some years ago to help protect the pond itself from having development right adjacent to it. So it provides further stipulations and regulations on that.
Thanks.
So within here, we've highlighted some in our memo as well for, can you flip that by chance? Rotate that, thank you. Thank you. We've identified the various parcels as outlined in the blue square throughout your packet as what we're seeking to have rezoned, which then confers with our Excel sheet, and then further down we're at showing what is proposed as well. So up top, for example, on this one with Richardson, we're asking that it be reclassified to commercial. This is the, if I believe right, the gas station as well. Yep, Shell gas station. So currently zoned residential, but the use is obviously commercial, so we're our recommendation would be to reclassify this from a residential to a commercial zoning district. And we have done that little snippet as well throughout all of our recommendations on that Excel sheet. And then once we get more to a formal setting with the Planning Commission, we've informed Mr. Mallory that we'll actually do a staff memorandum of our findings. But as a preliminary cursor, we wanted to get this in front of you regarding these properties. So, Mr. Schenkel, this is some of those properties that are zoned conservation in the rear. It's that last little, third to quarter of the properties, if not even that. So we're proposing to help clean that up so that way we don't have split zoned parcels. It won't impact them since most of all their buildings are located in that residential district. It just makes our map a little easier to read and a little bit less cumbersome as well.
Can you share why properties or parcels have split zoning?
I don't know the history of these. I think it predates your and I's time on the Planning Commission for that. Some split zonings will help with buffer requirements as well, from a less intensive use to more intensive use as well. I'm hypothesizing here on this that these were potentially done to help protect the pond area and the waterfront, to prevent higher density usage on those parcels, so then therefore it would help protect the nature aspect of that. So the top one being what the current zoning map shows, and then what we're proposing to be should the rezoning be moved forward and approved.
So I'm kind of stuck on this one a little bit. I know this is just for discussion tonight. I guess we're moving away from something that is intended to conserve to something that is maybe more flexible, and so I'm struggling with that a little bit.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but I believe the current ordinance anywhere around a waterway for the village of Vicksburg, the ordinance reads, there's a footage that would require a special use or a variance. So there is built within the process a review by the Planning Commission. I might bring your attention to, it was a house over on Sunset Lake, maybe if you remember that this came up. It also came up in the expansion of Apple Knockers. So there is a guardrail, if you will, within our ordinance that will still protect that and allow for a governmental review to ensure that that waterway is protected if need be.
So there, okay, so there's some, yeah, like a.
What it happens for, I guess this would be a retired cop's vernacular, it's eliminating that clear line in these small green spots that you absolutely can't do something, eliminates that, gets it to the R zoning for the entire parcel. And if someone wanted to put in a shed or some other fill in the blank, it would then be triggered by that zoning ordinance to come for review in front of the Planning Commission, whatever that is.
Okay.
Mr. Jacob, we still have our setbacks they would have to meet in this regard. Looking at this though, for some of these parcels, because it is such a small, it's a relatively small area on that, our viewpoint is that it may be more a hindrance than helpfulness on this, just for these as well.
But we certainly want everyone's input, because this isn't finalized. We're working towards publishing and moving through that process. Also in our internal discussions, we felt it would help out in the future for the couple examples that we have used where the variants have been sought and granted, versus this area that had that definitive line, but certainly listening to input from the Planning Commission.
Mr. Wines, if you scroll down further, so this parcel as well is currently zoned industrial. Our recommendation, and as supportive in extent by the master plan, is to go to residential. Looking at it, there is, site access concerns we have on this property, trying to get it for an industrial use. There is a little bit of frontage, but it is a residential frontage on this one as well. So meeting some kind of service agreement would be potentially problematic. Next page for me, sir. Thank you. This parcel right now has a multi-family dwelling unit on it. I think it's a 4-unit, currently zoned industrial, but yet it's a multi-family use, so it's a legal non-conforming. So we're recommending moving it to a multi-family district, which then gets it more what that intended use is for there. Thank you. There's a few parcels along this section of Main Street as well that there are 2 currently zoned commercial, but they're standalone vacant lots. In our initial analysis, we're asking, what the thought is on reclassifying those to a residential district. Right now, they are, they're small for for commercial development.
Those are the lots that the old hospital was on, that was torn down in Vicksburg.
Further, also cleaning up some of the other single zoned residential parcels on the west side of Maine as well that abuts the family fair land. And then our last ones we had as well is the new Lou's Deli or Lou's Market right there, currently zoned residential, but it's a commercial enterprise. So that'd be another one we're asking for consideration to move that forward to make it into a district that actually fits that use as well. So these are just our preliminary first glances at our current zoning map and the known properties that we would like to review further and then address. This is not a catch-all property, so if there's more that as village staff when we go through this, we'll add it to our list, but we did want to present these initial findings for Planning Commission discussion. And I don't know, Mr. Mallory, am I missing anything on that?
No, I think the things to highlight, it's kind of the initial, it's moving to the next stage, and certainly as you think about it, I would imagine that we have a little bit more in depth, but conversation about this, but potentially, we're gonna have some internal conversations this week to put these properties up on the August Planning Commission agenda to move forward in the recommendation and start to clean up some of these areas within the zoning maps of the village.
And then, Mr. Schenkel, that would require a public hearing as well, so we'll work with staff on getting that noticed properly as well, so.
Great, thank you.
So it'd be noticed, and anyone adjacent to 300 feet, no.
There's a the village attorney's working with us on the notification requirements because it's not our typical 1 or 2 off parcel. So I have requested with Mr. Mallory's support, just clarification from the village attorney on notification requirements for this. It's not something that's common in that regard. As the planning commission probably understands, we see 1 or 2 parcels at a time, which then requires a 300-foot notification. There are provisions though in the state act that a certain number or more over, we may not have to do the 300-foot, but we'll still work with staff on how we want to get that out there for any interested property owners, so.
Thank you.
Hey Kyle, I have a question too, or clarification. I'll make sure I'm correct in my thought here. It's C2, so where Louis is, because they also rent out part of that building, that still allows them to rent that space as well as have the grocery store? Or?
I'd have to confirm that. So that's where, Mr. Cox, I'd want that discussion to know, like, are they renting it? That might not be knowledge to staff and I. So as we move through this, we'd want any kind of those
On
tidbits.
Lou's?
Yes.
Louis,
Right.
yeah.
The Lou's Market?
Yes.
Yeah, they are renting that above. It's a residential above.
So we would look at that too as well to make sure we're not creating anything worse off in that regard. But those are the kind of comments we're asking for in this initial discussion. So.
Any further questions for staff or Mr. Mucha on the corrective zoning? All right, next item on our list tonight is the officers' slate. We are down several planning commission members tonight, but don't forget about them as you consider nominations for this. Debating on voting, should we hold the vote for next month?
Yeah.
That's up to me. All right, so what we're gonna do tonight is we're gonna nominate for the 4 positions, and then we will vote at the August meeting, okay? That way, all of our planning commission members are available here. So there's 4 positions that we have to fill, and these come up annually. The first is chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. So I'm gonna call, and at this time, if you would like to make a nomination, you can make that nomination. It does not need to be a motion. It can just be a nomination. And at next month's meeting, we will take a silent vote through tally voting on each person that is nominated for a seat. So if there are multiple people for a seat, then we will do that, that vote for that. So we'll start with treasurer. Treasurer, again, very easy compared to past years, right, John? Our village treasurer handles the majority of those tasks, but I will call for nominations for the treasurer role on the Planning Commission and DDA.
Who currently is our treasurer?
I think it was Don Ortella. Yeah, yes, sir.
I'm going to go ahead and make a nomination. I'm going to nominate Chad Kissinger for treasurer.
I don't think a standing council member
Oh,
can
sorry, I forgot
be
about that.
on,
Yeah, you did. All right, then I'm going to nominate Colin Bailey for treasurer. I know you were being quiet down there, Colin. Any further nominations for treasurer? All right, we will move on to secretary. Current secretary is Bill Cox. Any nominations for secretary?
This is Member DeBalt. I'd like to nominate Bill Cox again.
Any further nominations for secretary? All right, next is vice chair. And I don't know if I know who the vice chair is. We don't have a vice chair. Oh, that's right. Yep. So that seat is open at this time. I'll open it up for nominations on the vice chair.
Mr. DeBalt, I'd like to nominate Mr. Bishop for vice chair.
Great. Any other nominations for vice chair? And lastly, the chair position. Nominations for chair.
I nominate Matt Schenkel.
Any further nominations for chair? Hearing none, we will capture that and vote at our August meeting for those officer positions.
I will update the Planning Commission. We have received application for the position that, and I anticipate the village president making a nomination next Monday at the village council meeting, asking for support from the council. So I believe it is our hope that the August meeting will be swearing in the 9th member of the Planning Commission.
Great. All right, on to our DDA agenda. First on there is the shop local.
Yeah, I think what a program, and a shout out to Gilbert and Ivy for over 25 local businesses within our DDA participating at Shop Local, Find Waldo in the Berg month. The Village Council did unanimously pass a resolution identifying the month of July as Shop Local, Find Waldo in the Berg. There is actually Village is participating here at Village Hall, and there is a Find Waldo located within the public areas that's moved daily, and it's been kind of fun. I don't know if any of you noticed it on the way in today, but it is present, and have had multiple people stop by to look for it, but it is certainly been recognized on social media and a lot of positive comments from businesses, so we wanted the members to be aware of that program going on all month. And then July 24th will be the grand prize drawing at 7 p.m. during the Berg Days event in front of Gilbert and Ivy. So be happy to answer any questions or as we take this. Okay. We're back at it. Hopefully weather's cooperative this Wednesday. Have two excellent bands, have a huge giant slide we're bringing into town for the kids with cultural arts, hands-on activities for the Berg Day. So it's back this Wednesday, July 10th. Looking forward to that. We have identified our second annual Senior Berg Day for those 55 and over will be scheduled for Thursday, September 5th. I think tentatively it's going to be 11 or 11:15 a.m. through 1:45 p.m. out at the Historic Village in the pavilion, as we did last year. And I guess I'll take advantage of the representative from Frederick Construction here, as I'm pretty confident that their staff's going to help serve food that day as well. So it was a good time. Shout out to the Rise and Dine. Mr. DeBalt certainly involved in that, but another public benefit grant project commencing here in the village for a complete new facelift downtown. And a couple items not on the agenda. One, part of the budget process that was approved was to update our Downtown Development Authority plan. I anticipate having the RFP written for that and out after the next meeting in August. So we'll have that in your hands to review as we move to a 30-day RFP process to identify a company to assist us within updating that downtown development plan. Also mentioned July 24th at the Berg Days event. As we get closer, we'll probably have more details, but it's certainly the village of Vicksburg is receiving attention and notoriety from not only the state but federal government. On the 24th, be involved in people out of Lansing on a tour of the village, and then as well as observing the Berg Days that evening. So as we get closer, we'll make more of an announcement, but interesting things and nice attention for the village to get. So with that, that's my report tonight.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for staff on those items? All right, we will move on to member comments. Any comments from this body?
A couple questions for Mr. Mallory. There should be softball. So
Not usually.
You're not used to that? At the mill pond, a couple items there, you mentioned before you were trying to get some kind of grant or money towards redoing the bridge, culvert, whatever you want to call it there. If you had any success in that area?
We, I've not heard, we did submit for a $500,000 direct spending out of the state of Michigan fiscal year 25 budget process, but I've not heard back
Okay.
on that. That's through Senator McCann's office.
Okay, and then also on the mill pond, the dam that I believe you got some money to help
Yeah, the
rework that.
dam is actually, the drain commissioner has the jurisdiction on the dam, and the drain commissioner did receive, I think it's a $2.7 million from the county out of their ARPA funds to update the dam structure, and looking at multiple options. We did, in fact, have communication today with engineers that represent the drain commissioner's office, and just looking at one of those options, if Washington Street, due to the configuration and the engineering of the structure that would be put in place, it has the potential that Washington Street would have to be removed for that. And the conversation today, which will lead to further conversation, just is on if that option were to progress forward, potential impact with the Prairie Street culvert situation and the pros and cons of that. So I think those conversations will continue. But it is under a time crunch because that grant money has to be awarded in calendar year 25 and expensed before the end of 26. And
Okay.
it's quite a bit of money.
Oh, thank you.
I did want to make mention, this is Trustee Kissinger. The council did unanimously approve raising the pay for planning or DDA members. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, to $30 per meeting, I believe it was, or?
No, that had been a pay cut.
That's a pay
Don't want
cut?
anyone to
Okay.
quit. Let me clarify.
I
Let me
tried,
clarify.
guys.
I don't want you to run out and spend it all tonight, but I think it's $50 a
50.
meeting.
Okay.
This is Member DeBalt. I just wanted to give a thanks out to the Chamber of Commerce social media page. They put a post out stating that we are still open during our facade construction. It was quite rewarding to us the next day. We got a lot of comments there. I just wanted to give a thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for doing that for us. It's going to be a little while still. We ran into quite a few issues there. When you take 70 years of 4 sets of facade that's been covered up over, we've ran into quite a few contingencies. So, but it's coming along.
Good. Any further member comments? Hearing none, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:46. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your July.